Hello and welcome to another episode of the Meet Me in Sacred Space podcast. I am your host, Lori A. Andros. This podcast is a place for you to press pause on the busyness of your day-to-day life. It is a place to discover your voice of inner wisdom, reconnect with your authentic self, and to become the courageous creator of your adventurous, vibrant, and spirit-filled life. In each episode, we will get raw and real, exploring what it means to live a soul-led life. We will talk about sacred practices, ceremony, ritual, and dive into in the now, crystal wisdom and insight. Along the way, you will discover practical ways to bring the sacred into your everyday life. So grab a cup of tea, light a candle, get cozy, and let's dive in. Hello and welcome back. I am Lori Andros, and I am so happy to be connecting with you today. Today we are going to talk about the May crystal of the month. I know we're nearing the end of the month, but I think that this is actually a perfect time to sink into a little conversation. The crystal of the month for the month of May is Black Tourmaline. Now, I know many of you joined me last December around the winter solstice when we did the 2022 crystal forecast and dove in calling forward crystal allies for each month of the year. And as we did that, we called forward the stones and the crystals and stones that have particular wisdom, messages to support us on a collective level and on a personal level, opening up the space for deeper understanding and how to move with the natural momentums that are unfolding at these times. And the thing that's so fun about calling forward this crystal forecast every year and really sinking in to see which crystals and stones come forward is that I always have this idea of what each crystal or stone means, but when it comes to the actual month and everything starts to kind of play out and unfold, it reveals an aspect that I hadn't seen before. And this is one of the really beautiful things that I am discovering, have discovered over the last year and a half within the sanctuary. Because we go deeper into that message, we tune into the specific calls to action that the crystal is bringing forward and the ways that it wants to support us in our own personal journeys and the journey of the collective at this time. All right, so let's talk about Black Tourmaline. I don't think there's any coincidence that the previous couple episodes have really focused on connection with the earth, really deepening into it, softening into it, cultivating, nurturing a relationship. And quite simply, just getting out into nature. Now, you always hear me talk about getting out into nature in really big ways, right? I talk about our camping, getting out into the forest, our big road trips that Chris and I love to do, the ways that we love to spend our summer, not entirely off grid, but relatively in a remote area. And, I talk a lot about these deep immersive experiences. But the thing is that there are so many ways that the natural world and nature itself is present with us always. Now, there's obvious things like, house plants and stuff like that, the foods, the fruits, the vegetables that we eat, our crystals and stones. We don't have to go far to immerse ourselves in the natural world or to connect with the natural world. It can literally be in our meditation space, in our living room, in our backyard, on our porch, on our deck, on the patio, at the park down the street. Nature is abundant everywhere. This is one of the pieces that I really, really learned as I was studying shamanism. And it wasn't that I learned it so much, from the mental, mind place of needing to learn something new, but rather experienced it. I grew up in the country. So I grew up, my family had about 10 acres of land, and we were literally surrounded by farm fields. Yes. The closest neighbor was about a quarter mile down the road. It was delightful. But at the same time, I really longed to be around other kids my own age. And my closest friend, same age, lived about 3 miles away. So I knew the delights of being in nature, being in the country, growing up. But I was really eager when I stepped into my adult life to live in the city, to experience that. Now, Chris and I, for whatever reason, at the time that we bought our house, we found a home. We feel like, Spirit was really helping us out here on this one. And there was a bigger plan that was opening up for us, but I don't think we fully recognized it at the time. We had always talked about gardening and, creating beautiful spaces together. And we ended up with a double lot in an old city neighborhood. Yeah, in an old city neighborhood. We are, most of the homes here are built in the 1950s, and, kind of one of the earlier, developments in Green Bay. Definitely not the earliest, but but it's one of the earlier neighborhoods. And it's really unusual in this neighborhood to have a double lot. And we really found, as I was studying shamanism, I was called more and more to connect with nature, to deepen that relationship, to spend more time outside, to beyond the ways that Chris and I had been gardening or landscaping our yard and stuff like that. The call to have that level or that type of connection with nature shifted. And I began to notice that our yard was so alive in ways that I couldn't quite see before. It was like it began revealing itself to me as I invited it to, as I allowed it to, as I found the right, doorway to open and step into the natural world from the place of true, pure connection. Well, so let's back up here. How did I get on this tangent of connecting with the natural world, regardless of where we are at, wherever we live, and recognizing that it is always surrounding us? I think for myself, this is part of why I've always been drawn to crystals and stones. Well, Black Tourmaline is such a great ally for connecting us with the natural world. And, it's funny because when I sat down to connect with Black Tourmaline for the monthly call to action within the sanctuary, we did it in the forest. We did the message came forward in the forest. It emerged in that space clearly. Black Tourmaline had a lot to say, and a big part of I think what it brings in wisdom is about being grounded. Now, initially, when I learned about Black Tourmaline, one of the big themes that people spoke of with regards to Black Tourmaline was how it is a protective ally with regards to environmental or electromagnetic frequencies, the EMFs. Now, I really found this fascinating, and living in a house where we have Wi-Fi, we have TV, we have multiple computers, multiple phones, multiple devices, right? Between Chris and I, we have quite a bit because he brings things home from work and I work here. So there's a lot of energy within our home. And then we are in the city, we are in town. And, that really affects our awareness and our sensitivities and, our energy and stuff like that. And in fact, Coda even wears a little piece of black tourmaline. Yeah, it's one of her little jewels. It seems to be quite helpful for her. But what I noticed is that the black tourmaline, it's really, really helpful for that. But in addition to that, it actually invites us to have an awareness of how different energies, how we experience conversations, how we experience, the places that we go to, buildings, vehicles, the roads, like all of life, any area of life. It invites us to have an awareness regarding how our experiences and our environment impacts or affects our energy and our energy field, our sense of being grounded, connected, and deeply present. So whether you look at it from, the specific place of the electromagnetic frequencies, or you begin to bridge that beyond into different environmental experiences and stuff like that, it is an incredible ally for really tuning in and being centered within our own energy. Yeah. The thing that begins to happen as we work with black tourmaline is that it invites us into a place of really feeling aligned within our own energy field. And it's grounding while also being protective. Yeah, I love a little bit of protection, a little bit or a lot bit. There are times where, we need varying degrees of awareness around external energies, and not from the place of being on guard or in a fight or flight sort of energy, but rather from the place of being really present within ourselves and having an awareness of what scatters our energy, what causes us to feel a sense of being scattered, what disrupts our sense of presence and grounded, being grounded within the moment. Now, very often we're not aware of it. We live life and we move quickly from one thing to the next. And black tourmaline invites us back into our center and invites us to have a heightened awareness of what supports our energy and what scatters our energy. Yeah, this is one of the really big pieces that has come forward from black tourmaline this month. What supports our energy or what scatters our energy? There are so many subtle ways that our energy becomes scattered in our day-to-day lives. Our attention is pulled from place to place. We have lists of things going on. Our mind gets really busy and active. We try to do many more things than maybe perhaps we have time or even energy for. And in the process, one of the things that happens and one of the things that black tourmaline really brings into our awareness is how that creates a sense of being scattered, how it creates a sensation of being depleted and truly depletes us. And it invites us into awareness of how can we come back into alignment? How can we call our energy back? How can we bring our energy back into the present moment to be deeply anchored and fully present within our lives? Now, Black Tourmaline, as I've worked with it over the years, I've come to know that it actually really invites this through connection with nature. Now that I think is really, really fascinating to me. And the more I have worked with and continue to work with Black Tourmaline, actually, I work with it quite a bit. The more I have found myself being able to find natural and easy ways to get out and spend more time in nature. Nature has become more accessible than I previously thought it was. Yeah, subtle ways like years ago, I used to complain that there weren't any really great trails in Green Bay. And you know what? I was wrong. I just didn't know where they were. But over time, I found one, and then I found another one, and I found another one. And then I realized that other people in the area felt the same thing. I was receiving messages from friends, from colleagues. They were asking me where to go to be in nature. Where are some of the best, local beaches? Where's a great trail to get out and hike on? Where is a great trail to bring my my elderly, grandmother along, with me? Where are places that are, much more accessible, places that are less accessible, places that are more remote, like lots and lots of questions. And it was so much fun because what I realized was that part of being able to find these places wasn't so much about, for me, it wasn't so much about looking to the map or trying to, ask a lot of questions of other people, which I did do a good bit of that too. But it was more about coming into a place of connection with the earth. And it was like the earth started to reveal places to me. Like, this is kind of funny. I mean, it seems like kind of silly to say it, but there would be times where I may have driven past someplace over and over and over, actually for years, and did not even realize there was a trail right there. And all of a sudden one day it revealed itself. And this is really what happens as we open ourselves to a new level of relationship with nature, as we say, yes, I'm ready to connect on a next level. I also began to recognize where the parks were in my own neighborhood and which ones, had the different vibes of each of the parks. And I began to attend to and be present with the trees and the nature within my own neighborhood, from the birds that pass through to the ones we feed to the trees, that line our streets. On so many levels, that relationship has opened up and bloomed. And I think Black Tourmaline invites us into that relationship because it knows how powerful that relationship is to coming into alignment with ourselves, to being deeply grounded and connected, to being clear within our own energy, to calling our energy back to ourselves. And I think this is one of the really big, actually, this is the big central message that Black Tourmaline has been and is continuing to bring through this month. It is time to get into nature. It is time to press pause on the busyness of your day-to-day life and reconnect with you. A little quote from the beginning of the podcast. But to really reconnect with you, to take the time to connect with nature and to connect with your true nature. All right, so if you're looking for ways to do this and you're feeling a sense of curiosity and desire to set aside a bit of time and really open this doorway to step forward and make a commitment to cultivating a new relationship with nature, this is a great time to do that. Not only from a seasonal perspective, but I actually have put together an 11-day journey that I would love for you to join me for. It is called Into the Forest. Now, no, you do not need to live in the forest or by the forest for this. You can be in a big city. You can be out in the country somewhere. You can live in the desert, in the ocean, live by the ocean. Wherever you live is exactly perfect. All you need is a desire to connect with nature in a new and meaningful way. Now, this 11-day journey is going to open that door. It's going to support you in opening that door and inviting you to step forward. We'll be doing some sacred practice, some ritual. There are 2 guided meditations that you'll also receive with this 11-day journey. There is a group, like a group forum. It's not on Facebook. It is on my website. So it's right within the classroom page, classroom content. So it's all right in the same area, keeping things really together for you. So if this is something that interests you, I'd love to invite you over to my website, loriaandress.com. And the specific URL is loriaandress.com/forest journey. There's no spaces with that. Forest and journey are just right next to each other. All right. So I'd love for you to join me. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful journey. It kicks off on June 1st. If cultivating or nurturing a new and meaningful relationship with nature is something that has been speaking to your heart, join me. All right. So with that, I thank you for joining me today for this episode of the Meet Me in Sacred Space podcast. Go out and get a piece of Black Tourmaline. Spend a bit of time with it. Get to know the beautiful and potent ways it creates a bit of protection. It grounds, supports you in coming into alignment, and invites you to spend time in nature. Have a beautiful day. And as always, shine brightly. Bye for now.